This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to download R, the program we will use in this class, and how to get started on the problem set. So when you open up Canvas, you'll see problem set 1. It has the problem set, which is a Word document, and then an R script, which I'll describe in a minute, and some data. And you need to download all three of those things. And you should save them all in the same folder on your computer in a place that you know and you can remember. So when you download the problem set, it looks like this. Here's the problem set 1. So I give you some instructions here on getting started with R. Now, the first thing you want to do is download R from the website, and I've given you a hyperlink to the website for R. This is what it looks like. So you're going to go to this website and download R for Windows if you're running a Windows machine, or for Mac if you run a Mac. And then download it and install it. It's an executable file, so it should install for you. The next thing you want to do is you need to download RStudio. R is the statistical software. RStudio is the presentation of that software. If you don't have RStudio, it's really hard to work in R. So follow this link, and then that'll take you to this website. And this is the RStudio website. These are all open source software and they're free, so that's nice. So this will take you down. You can download the free RStudio for your desktop, and then you just have to choose which one is appropriate for your machine. Is it a Windows machine or is it a Mac machine? You can forget all of these because most of us are going to be running Windows and Mac. Alright, the next step, so you've downloaded R, you've installed it, then you've downloaded RStudio and you've installed it, and then you want to open it to make sure it works. So here's what it looks like when you open it up. This actually has the R script open in it already. When you open it up for the first time, it won't look quite like this. I'll delete that. It's going to give you just the console, and this will be empty for you when you're first opening it up. This has a bunch of stuff in it that I've been working on to get the problem set ready, but this is what it looks like when you open it up. Okay, so you've downloaded R in RStudio, you've opened it up to make sure it works. Then you have downloaded the R script for homework 1 and the data, and you've saved it in a folder. It's really important to save it in a folder and you know where that folder is. So on a PC, what we're talking about is the path or the directory. Well, that's the same for a Mac. It's always called the path or the directory. And it's sort of like an address. It's telling you where something is located so your computer can find it. If you don't tell your computer where this stuff is, then it won't be able to find it. You won't be able to do the problem set. So your computer is kind of organized like the post office organizes houses. You can think of, if I click on this, it gives me the actual path that I can copy. It's on the D hard drive, and this slash means now we're going up a folder. It's in the Dropbox folder. This slash is up a folder, so now we're in the metrics folder, and then we're going into the problem sets folder, and then into the problem set 1 folder. So this is telling, when we use this will tell R exactly where you've saved the data. You can kind of think of this as like, again, like the post office using the address. Maybe the hard drive D is the state, and then the next folder up is the zip code, and then here's the city that it's in, and then here's the street address, and then here's the number of the actual house. That's an analogy. Okay, next step is you've downloaded the data and the script, and you know where they're saved. And then you can go into RStudio and open them up. So let's open up the R script homework 1, open it up, and here it is. Okay, so what is a script and what is the console? You can run commands. You can tell R to do things in this console. So we can do something like, we can ask it, what is my working directory? What is my directory that I'm currently working in, or my path? So I would type it here, get working directory. Look, it shows me what my current working directory is. I also give you that command in the script. The nice thing about a script is I never have to type it again. I put my cursor here, highlight it, push run, there it runs that line of code again. So in an R script, this is sort of like a saved file that you can run over and over again. These hashtags tell R, don't worry about this line. This is just text. R skips it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you that you can just push run, and it'll jump to the next line that R can decipher as something it should run. So this line here clears your workspace. If you have anything going on in here, if you've downloaded or if you've uploaded some data to R, it'll clear it out. So push run, it just ran this line. You can see it popped up down in the console, and then the cursor jumped past it. So next thing we want to do is import the data that we're going to use in the problem set. So we've already run this line, get working directory, but we can run it again. So we'll just push run again and see how the cursor jumped past get working directory. Get working directory populated down here, tells us what our working directory is. And now we want to set our working directory. So what do we mean by that? We want to set it to the place where we've saved the data and the script. We use this command, set working directory, set wd, and then the directory is in quotes here. And then the thing I want to highlight here is that it's important which direction your slashes are in. If you have slashes this direction, it won't work. Let's see. Push run. Oops, it gives me an error. It doesn't like those slashes. It doesn't know where that is. It needs something extremely specific. So let's try this one. Set working directory with the slashes in the right direction. Great, it worked. Okay, so now it knows where to find the data. We don't necessarily have to set the working directory. We can tell R to import the data without setting this working directory by just putting the directory before the data. So here we have the directory from D all the way to folder the pset1, and then we have another slash, and then we just say grab the wine data out of that folder. So we can tell R to do that, and it does, and it picks it up and it shows up over here. Great, so now we have wine data. It has data that has 50 observations. That's going to be 50 rows. We'll look at that in a minute. And it has 6 variables. The alternative is that we've set the working directory. We don't have to put the directory in anymore. We can just tell R to go look in this directory for the wine data. It should be in that folder. If it's not there, it's going to give you an error. But since it's there, it should work. Great, it worked, and it's the same thing. Now let's look at the data. You can either click on the data, or you can use this command, view wine data. So let's do that. And it pops up here. So this should look familiar. This is just like an Excel worksheet, except you can't change anything in it. So it gives you, N is just the number of observations. Napa is an indicator for whether or not the wine was produced in Napa Valley. So indicator meaning it's 0 if it's not, and 1 if it is. And then we have the number of cases, the score of the wine, the age. This is all defined in your problem set, and the price of the wine. Great, so we see our data, 50 observations, 50 rows. That's what it says, 50 observations over here of 6 variables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Okay, so we viewed it. Now we know it's there. Now let's work on the first problem. I ask you to create a simple scatter plot of the wine data. 2 variables in the wine data. So the first thing you want to do is attach the wine data. Attach tells R that you can have multiple data sets loaded in here, and so it's not super obvious why we would do that with only one data set, but if you had multiple data sets loaded in here, you're just telling R, I want to use the wine data for the next few commands. So attach the wine data, says, okay, gives us a little bit of a warning. Hey, some things are not perfect with it, but that's okay. We'll get through it. And then the next thing is create the scatter plot. So to do that, we're going to use the command plot. And then the command plot, you can also Google all of these commands online, and it gives you the syntax and what they do. Also, if you just type it in here, it should, yeah, it gives you plot plus a bunch of information. So it says, okay, what do you want for your x variable? What do you want for your y variable? And then if you look up online, you can see there's a lot of other stuff you can add after the x and y variables. So let's see what happens. Okay, we've said I'm going to put the cases, that's the variable cases here. I'm putting that variable on the x-axis. Price, that's the variable price on the y-axis. And then I want to give it a title. And so the syntax for giving it a title is this. You have main equals, in quotations, some string of words. So you can title it whatever you want, but this is just an obvious way to title it, right? Scatter plot of prices and cases. Then I'm going to label the x-axis. So x label equals cases, y label equals prices, and this just gives me the size of the dots. So let's run that line of code. All right, and it shows up over here. We have a nice scatter plot with cases on the x-axis and prices on the y-axis. We could change the title or change the labels just by doing this. So let's say we change it to scatter plot of prices and cases second time or something. Just making stuff up. In cases, we could maybe make this number of cases. And so we can see what happens when we do this. It just changes the x-axis and it gives us a different title. Okay, then the second, so we've done that. We can also change out the variables. We can put in, for the x variable, go into here. We can put score against prices. Let's try that real quick. Score. Now it gives us score against prices. However, we still have the x-axis labeled as number of cases, so we're going to want to do that. Relabel the x-axis, and we're going to want to retitle it because it's no longer cases. So we can do score. And then now it looks better. Score. Great. So now you know how to run, create a scatter plot, change the title and change the labels. Great. The next thing is I want you to describe the data or create some summary statistics and get the average and the variance of the variables. To do that, you need to install the package called Cyc. So to install the package, you just run this command, install.packages with Cyc in the quotation marks here. Once you've installed it, you need to tell R to use that package. And that's what this library tool does. This is telling R, okay, I want you to use this package for the next bit of commands. So I've already installed this package, so I'm not going to run this command. But I do need to, I don't have it installed, so let's run that. It takes a little bit, finds it on the internet. All right, now I've installed it. Now let's load it. So it gives me a warning it was built under a different version of R. It shouldn't be a problem though. So now I can run this command, describe the wine data. What happens? Great, it gives me this big table down here. It tells me, okay, here's my variables. N, Napa, cases, score, age, and price. Variables, just numbering them. N is the number of observations. So 50 observations for each. Here's the mean of each variable. Here's the standard deviation of each variable. Here's the median. I don't actually know what these two are. The minimum and the maximum of each variable, the range, the skew and the kurtosis, and the standard error. So it gives you a lot of information. You can cut and paste this into your Word document and as your answer to this question. Okay, next we want to do now describe the data by Napa to produce summary statistics by Napa Valley wine. So we want to say, okay, what are the summary statistics for Napa Valley wines versus non-Napa Valley wines? So we're going to describe by the wine data, and we're going to describe by this variable Napa. So notice how this command is slightly different than the one above. This is describe and this is describe by. So let's run that. Okay, now we've got a slightly larger table. We can open this up a bit. So here was our summary statistics for the entire data set. Now we are describing for Napa equals 0 or group equals 0 and Napa equals 1. So you can see that there's 24 variables or 24 observations with Napa equals 0 and 26 with Napa equals 1. So the question you might ask yourself is the price of a Napa Valley wine on average higher than the price of a non-Napa Valley wine? Well, here's the mean of a non-Napa Valley wine, and here's the mean price for the Napa Valley wine. So the answer is yes. We can create some histograms. To do that, the simplest way is just this command hist. So let's run that. Hist price gives us a histogram of the price variable. Notice that we can, okay, so if we hadn't attached the wine data here, we would have to be telling R what data set to use, where to find this price variable. So we can, to do that, we would say wine data with a $sign and then price. So this is going to give us the exact same thing. Yeah, it doesn't change it. So we want histograms for subsets of prices of the price variable by Napa status. We can do that. We're going to subset the data to do that. So this command here subsets the data. So we're going to say price sub 0 for non-Napa Valley wines. We're going to take this command subset. We're going to tell it we're going to subset the wine data for the price variable specifically, and we're going to subset it by Napa equals 0. The wine data at Napa equals 0. We can take this bit out because we've attached the data, so R already knows what data set we want to use. So we could just do that. We'll subset the data. It shows up over here. So it tells us we have a vector or a string of numbers from 1 to 24. We know that there's 24 observations with Napa Valley equals 0, so that's great. Here are the prices of those 24 observations. Now let's do a histogram of the prices of sub 0. So histogram of this new data set, and see what it looks like. Okay, so it looks a little different. You're going to have to do that in your problem set, and then also you want to adjust this so that you want to compare it to the Napa Valley wines. These are the non-Napa Valley wines because Napa is set to 0. To do that, we would just take this, copy and paste it. We could put 1 here, put 1 here. So we're now going to subset the data for Napa Valley wines where the variable Napa is equal to 1. We get a different value here. This is a vector of 26 observations, and we're going to create a histogram of it. And we would want to change the title as well. Great, looks a little different. So that should get you started with the with this problem set and R. And I will have office hours to help, and we also have our Wednesday synchronous class meeting to help.